The 10th of May, 1940, World War II, the Netherlands. Nazi Germany invades Holland, and the German air forces, the Luftwaffe, use paratroopers in the capture of tactical points and to assist in the advance of ground troops across the country. The invasion is accompanied by heavy aerial bombardment of Rotterdam and culminates on the 14th of May with the destruction of its entire historic centre. Because the Germans threatened to bomb the city of Utrecht in the same way, the Dutch forces surrender one day later. Soon after, the Nazis start to occupy the whole country and pass new anti-Jewish laws which are designed to exclude Jewish people from society and restrict their livelihood. The systematic deportations of Dutch Jews to death camps start in July 1942. Among the deportees is a 34-year-old woman whose team won the gold medal for women's gymnastics at the 1928 Amsterdam Olympics. Her name is Estella Blitz. Estella Blitz was born as Estella Agsteribbe on the 6th of April 1909 in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Her parents, Samson Agsteribbe and Estherina Frank, used to call their daughter Stella. From the 28th of July to the 12th of August 1928, the Netherlands hosted the Olympic Games in Amsterdam, and in spite of criticism, women's athletics and team gymnastics debuted at these Olympics. Among the Dutch gymnasts were 5 Jewish women, and Stella was one of them. The team won the gold medal for women's gymnastics, and the young women became national heroines. They were trained by Gerrit Klerekoper, a diamond cutter by profession, but a man with a passion for gymnastics. He was also Jewish. Individually, Stella placed third at the Dutch All-Round Championships in both 1930 and 1934. At the latter event, she competed as Estella Blitz, having married Samuel Blitz in March 1934. Samuel was a diamond cutter and also a gymnast at Vught, the same sports club where Stella trained. The couple lived in Amsterdam and had 2 children, a daughter Nanny and son Alfred. When on the 30th of January 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany, the Jews in Europe hardly imagined the impact it would have on their lives. In January 1933, there were some 523,000 Jews in Germany, representing less than 1% of the country's total population. The initial response to the Nazi takeover was a substantial wave of emigration. Some 37,000 to 38,000 Jews emigrated, much of it to neighboring European countries such as France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Denmark, Czechoslovakia, and Switzerland. Those who were especially likely to emigrate were Jews who were politically active. Other measures that spurred decisions to emigrate in the early years of Nazi rule were the dismissal of Jews from the civil service and the Nazi-sponsored boycott of Jewish-owned stores. However, during the next 2 years, there was a decline in the number of immigrants. This trend may partly have been due to the stabilization of the domestic political situation, but was also caused by the strict enforcement of American immigration restrictions, as well as the increasing reluctance of European and British Commonwealth countries to accept additional Jewish refugees. Despite the passage of the Nuremberg race laws in September 1935 and the subsequent related decrees that deprived German Jews of civil rights, Jewish immigration remained more or less constant. However, the events of 1938 caused a dramatic increase in Jewish immigration. The German annexation of Austria in March, the increase in personal assaults on Jews during the spring and summer, the nationwide Kristallnacht, or Night of Broken Glass in November, and the subsequent seizure of Jewish-owned property all caused a flood of visa applications. Although finding a destination proved difficult, about 36,000 Jews left Germany and Austria in 1938, and 77,000 more in 1939. By September 1939, approximately 282,000 Jews had left Germany and 117,000 from annexed Austria. Of these, 15,000 fled to the Netherlands, and the Dutch people were thus provided with first-hand information on the persecution of Jews under the Nazi rule. This was one of the reasons why, by 1937, a Dutch counterpart to the German Nazi Party, the National Socialist Movement in the Netherlands, or NSB, lost many sympathizers and achieved only 4% in the parliamentary elections. The party's political closeness to the Third Reich was too unpopular in Dutch society, a fact that was strongly reinforced by the state, the established parties, and the churches. The Second World War began on the 1st of September 1939 when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. On the 10th of May 1940, Germany invaded the Netherlands. Soon after, a civil administration was installed under the SS auspices, and Arthur Seyss-Inquart was appointed Reichskommissar of the Netherlands. Among his first steps were a series of laws posing economic discriminations against the Jews. During 1940, the German occupation authorities banned Jews from the civil service and required Jews to register the assets of their business enterprises. In January 1941, the German authorities required all Jews to register themselves as Jews. A total of 159,806 persons were registered, including 19,561 persons born of mixed marriages. The total number included some 25,000 Jewish refugees from the German Reich. The German requirement that all Jews register was not for their own safety as they had claimed, but to enable their future deportation. A Jewish council was established in February 1941. The council was held responsible for law and order in the Jewish districts, and if the council failed to ensure this, house searches would be carried out and there would be severe punishments for anyone possessing arms. On the 22nd and 23rd of February 1941, German forces raided the Jewish quarter in Amsterdam, arresting and deporting more than 400 Jewish men to the Vught and Mauthausen concentration camps. The Dutch people's reaction was unique among the Nazi-occupied Europe. They organized the February Strike, a two-day general strike, which started on the 25th of February 1941. German officials brutally suppressed the strike. The action was followed by a hardening in Nazi policy. The German authorities, as well as collaborating Dutch authorities and civil services, segregated Jews from the general Dutch population and incarcerated 15,000 of them in German-administered forced labor camps. The Germans then ordered the concentration of Jews in Amsterdam and sent foreign and stateless Jews to the Westerbork transit camp in the northeast part of the country. Some of the remaining provincial Jews were sent to the Vught camp. The sign "Forbidden for Jews" appeared on the doors and gates of cafes, swimming pools, sports fields, museums, zoos, libraries, theaters, markets, and many other public places. Jews had to hand over their valuables, and their businesses were confiscated. Regulations which forced Jews to wear a yellow Star of David on their clothing as a means of identification were announced in the Netherlands on the 29th of April, 1942. Those caught without a badge after the 5th of May when they came into effect were arrested and detained for a 6-week period to serve at Mauthausen. In the Netherlands, everyone knew that this was a death sentence. By this time, Vught Sports Club, one of the largest and oldest Jewish sports clubs in Amsterdam, in which Stella used to train, had been closed, as in September 1941, the Germans banned Jews from all sports activities. However, even after the club's closure, Jews continued to train and exercise illegally until 1942. In July of the same year, deportations of Jews from the Netherlands began. The last train left Westerbork for Auschwitz on the 3rd of September 1944. During these 2 years, the Germans and their Dutch collaborators deported some 107,000 Jews, mostly to Auschwitz and Sobibor, where they were murdered. Only 5,200 survived. Among the deportees were Stella, as well as 3 other women from the gymnastics team that represented the Netherlands at the 1928 Amsterdam Olympics. The women were already in their 30s, married, with children. Gerrit Klerekoper, their trainer, was also deported. Gerrit, along with his wife Katja and their 14-year-old daughter Elisabeth, were murdered by the Nazis at the Sobibor extermination camp in German-occupied Poland on the 2nd of July 1943. Their 21-year-old son Leendert was murdered in Auschwitz in July 1944 by exhaustion. In late July 1943, Stella, her husband Samuel, and their children had been arrested in Amsterdam and incarcerated in Vught. Some 5 weeks later, they were transferred to Westerbork. Built in 1939, Westerbork was first used as a refugee camp for Jews fleeing from Germany and Austria. During the Second World War, the camp was known as the Gateway to Hell. It was a transit camp to concentration camps like Auschwitz and Sobibor. In Westerbork, everything was arranged to give prisoners the impression that they would be sent to work in camps in Eastern Europe. The information provided at the time was that life there would be heavy, hard, and monotonous, but it would be livable. In any case, children and families would be together. Occasionally, letters arrived from camps like Auschwitz, in which it was stated that there was hard work to be done, but they were doing well. However, the doubt and suspicion arose when trains departed that only contained those who could not work, the elderly, sick, and children. There were also rumors in the camp that the Nazis were up to no good. It was generally the German and Austrian Jews who had escaped who knew, mostly from their own experience, the directions in which things would go. Yet early on, few believed that the worst was waiting for them there, mostly because nobody knew anything concrete about the East. More than 100 trains departed from Camp Westerbork in the direction of the camps in Eastern and Mid-Europe. The first prisoners were deported to Auschwitz on the 15th and 16th of July, 1942. When on the 14th of September 1943, a deportation train left Westerbork, the deportees included Estella, her husband Samuel, their daughter Nanny, and their son Alfred. 2 days later, the train arrived at Auschwitz. Located in German-occupied Poland, Auschwitz consisted of 3 camps, including Birkenau, which was the killing center. After Jewish deportees arrived at Auschwitz-Birkenau, they immediately underwent selection. The process of selection and murder was carefully planned and organized. When a train stopped at the platform, the arrivals were lined up into 2 columns, men and older boys in one, women and the children of both sexes in the other. The SS physicians such as Josef Mengele performed a selection. The only criterion was the appearance of the prisoners, whose fate, for labor or for death, was determined at will. The veteran prisoners gathered the belongings of the new arrivals in an area known as Canada, which consisted of several barracks which were used to store the stolen belongings of the prisoners. Trucks carried those too infirm to walk, and the rest marched. Before entering the gas chambers, people were ordered to disrobe. In Crematorium 1, they undressed either in the yard surrounded by a wall or in the antechamber. Wooden barracks were erected for this purpose at bunkers 1 and 2. At crematoria 2 to 5, there were special undressing rooms. The SS men kept the people fated to die, unaware of what awaited them, and made the new arrivals believe that they were being sent to the camp where work was waiting for them, but first they had to undergo disinfection and bathe. Jews were told politely to hang their clothing on hooks, take a shower, and were even promised that they would be provided with soup and tea or coffee. However, they were taken into the gas chambers, and after the doors were shut, SS men dropped Zyklon B pellets through vents in the roofs or holes in the side of the chamber. The victims were dead within 20 minutes. Johann Kremer, an SS doctor who oversaw the gassings, testified that the shouting and screaming of the victims could be heard through the opening, and it was clear that they fought for their lives. After the victims were murdered, their gold teeth were extracted, and the women's hair was shorn by the Sonderkommando, which were groups of Jews forced to work in the crematorium. The bodies were hauled to the crematorium furnaces for incineration, the bones were pulverized, and the ashes were scattered in the fields. Unfortunately, among the Auschwitz victims was also the Blitz family. Stella, then 34 years old, along with her 6-year-old daughter Nanny and 2-year-old son Alfred, were killed shortly after arrival on the 17th of September, 1943. Stella's husband Samuel died at Auschwitz on the 28th of April, 1944. He was 36 years old. Next to their trainer Gerrit Klerekoper, 4 of 5 Jewish women at the 1928 Dutch Olympic gymnastics team were murdered by the Nazis. Their names were Estella Agsteribbe, Helena Nordheim, Hans Pollack, and Jurgen Simons. We must never forget their names, as their stories and suffering must forever remind us of the dangers of discrimination and racism and hatred towards each other, as history often repeats itself. There were many tears shed for Stella Blitz Agsteribbe. Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.